Hello and welcome to Firstpost Live, where we bring you the day's top 4 stories from across the world. I'm Joshua Barnes, live from the Firstpost studios. Let's begin with the headlines. India's winter session of Parliament opens, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi urging lawmakers to ensure a smooth, drama-free session. The session will run until December the 19th. A Bangladesh court sentences Sheikh Rehana, sister of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, to 7 years in prison for allegedly seizing prime plots in Dhaka. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is to meet Emmanuel Macron in Paris today to rally European backing, as US and Ukrainian negotiators hold talks in Florida on a proposed peace plan to end the war with Russia. Singapore announces a tougher ban on smartphones and smartwatches in secondary schools starting January, expanding the restrictions to cover all school hours and requiring students to store devices in lockers or bags. And Oxford University Press names RageBait its word of the year, defining it as online content designed to provoke anger, with usage tripling over the past year. We begin with our lead story, as Tamil Nadu prepares for more rain as remnants of Cyclone Ditwah sweep across India's east coast. And after wreaking havoc across Sri Lanka, Cyclone Ditwah's remnants have now shifted towards southern India, triggering intense rainfall and widespread alerts across Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. The system, recently downgraded to a deep depression, remains close to the coast, and according to the Indian Meteorological Department, it may linger for the next 24 hours with additional rains expected. Cyclone Ditwah has thrown air and rail travel into disarray across southern India, with major disruptions reported through Sunday. Airlines including Indigo, Air India and Akasa Air issued advisories, warning that heavy rain and strong winds could delay or cancel flights operating in and out of Chennai and several other southern cities. Routes to Colombo, Pondicherry, Madurai and more remain vulnerable to sudden changes, with passengers urged to track real-time updates and offered refunds or alternative options if affected. In Tamil Nadu, rail services have also taken a major hit, with multiple trains cancelled. The depression is situated very close to the coasts of Chennai and Puducherry. An orange alert remains in effect for multiple coastal districts, with warnings of heavy to very heavy rain and strong winds. In precautionary measures, the Tamil Nadu government has declared a holiday for all schools and educational institutions in Chennai and adjacent districts. In the nearby Union Territory of Puducherry, the government and private schools are also closed for the day, as officials brace for heavy rains. The MET department has also issued a fisherman warning for the coastal regions, as wind speeds are expected to swing between 55 and 75 kilometers per hour, with strong gusts, making sea travel dangerous. The after effects of Cyclone Ditwah are being felt across the Bay of Bengal coastline, with heavy rain warnings extended to coastal Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Local authorities have pre-positioned rescue teams, and residents are urged to avoid lie-lowing areas and not travel unless absolutely necessary. Cyclone Ditwah has already left a devastating impact in Sri Lanka, with at least 300 people confirmed dead and nearly 200,000 people forced into temporary shelters as rivers burst their banks and entire towns were submerged. Sri Lanka's president on Monday said that the storm had triggered the largest and most challenging natural disaster in the country's history. The Cyclone Ditwah weakens but refuses to fully move on. Both Sri Lanka and southern India remain on edge. For now, the stormed-out sunsets will have to wait for another day, as rescuers, weather teams and local officials continue their race against time, determined to keep communities safe. Staying on with updates from the cyclone. Sri Lanka continues to reel from the devastation left behind by Cyclone Ditwah. India has stepped in with a major humanitarian push under Operation Sagar Bandhu. The operation was launched by India immediately after Cyclone Ditwah made landfall on November the 27th, causing severe damage across Sri Lanka. India's humanitarian and disaster relief response is to support Sri Lanka through flying in supplies, deploying National Disaster Response Force, assisting local authorities, and also evacuating stranded Indian nationals. The final group of Indians stranded in Sri Lanka was brought home earlier this morning. At least 104 passengers who had been stuck at Colombo's international airport were flown to Thiruvananthapuram on an Indian Air Force aircraft that touched down at dawn. The Indian High Commission released visuals from the airport showing passengers preparing to return home. The last batch came just hours after more than 300 Indians were evacuated on Sunday night from flood and landslide-hit regions. Evacuation efforts continued throughout the day, both through commercial airlines and Indian Air Force aircraft. One military transport aircraft carrying 247 passengers left for Thiruvananthapuram, while another flew 76 passengers to Delhi's Hindon Air Base. The High Commission kept its emergency help desk running round the clock for anyone still stranded. Alongside the evacuations, India has also been bolstering Sri Lanka's own rescue operations. Chetak helicopters from INS Vikrant flew repeated rescue flights over areas cut off by landslides, particularly across the Central Highlands. With roads washed away, air support became the only way to reach people stranded on rooftops and hill slopes. The Indian Air Force also conducted a hybrid rescue mission on November 30th, using Mi-17 helicopters navigating through restricted and heavily damaged terrain. The Indian Air Force has been at the heart of the operation, sending transport aircraft, medical teams, trauma care units and large quantities of relief material to Colombo. Medical teams travelled with Bisham, which are compact, rapid deployment mobile medical units equipped for on-site diagnostics and emergency surgical care. These specialised systems were sent at the request of Sri Lanka's Health Ministry. Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed his condolences for the lives lost in Sri Lanka. In a message on X, he said he was praying for the safety and swift recovery of all those affected, adding that India had rushed relief in solidarity with our closest maritime neighbour. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar echoed that support, emphasising the close coordination between NDRF teams and Sri Lankan authorities. Sri Lanka has declared a national emergency. The death toll has climbed past 300. With India's air and naval forces driving relief under Operation Sagar Bandhu, Sri Lanka remains in a critical phase of rescue and recovery. And while stranded Indians are now safely home, the focus shifts to supporting Sri Lanka as it works to rebuild after one of its most devastating disasters in years. For our next story, let's take a look at the fast-moving developments in South Africa. President Donald Trump confirmed on Sunday that he recently spoke with Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. The revelation comes at a moment of soaring tensions between Washington and Caracas. The announcement was brief, and the president provided no details or agenda.
The New York Times reported that you had a phone call with Maduro. Did you?
I don't want to comment on it. The answer is yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about it?
No, I can't do that.
Mr. President, would you say it went well?
I wouldn't say it went well or badly. It was a phone call, yeah.
But media outlets have filled in some of the gaps, with reports stating that President Trump and Maduro discussed the possibility of an in-person meeting. But there was silence from the Venezuelan side. Neither President Maduro nor his top officials have commented on the call. And the silence only fueled speculation, especially as President Maduro vanished from public view for several days, triggering rumours that he had fled the country. He was last seen on Wednesday. Meanwhile, a US senator recently revealed that Washington has offered Maduro the chance to leave for Russia or anywhere he chooses, highlighting how seriously the White House is considering a post-Maduro landscape. Then on Sunday, the Venezuelan president resurfaced. Maduro's remarks were short yesterday as he avoided directly mentioning the crisis that has engulfed his country and his government. Meanwhile, pressure from Washington has been intensifying. Trump has warned that land-based strikes against drug trafficking networks connected to Venezuela could begin very soon, even advising airlines, pilots and criminal groups to steer clear of Venezuelan airspace.
We've almost stopped. It's about 85% stopped by sea. You probably noticed that. People aren't wanting to be delivering by sea. And we'll be starting to stop them by land also. The land is easier, but that's going to start very soon. We warned them, stop sending poison to our country.
On Saturday, President Trump declared that the entire airspace around the country should be considered closed. The country's foreign ministry immediately slammed Trump's warning, calling it a colonist threat, but the US president's message sent shockwaves through Caracas.
I think it's unfair because there are people who need to travel for work, business, to see our family, and we Venezuelans are not to blame for these situations. We are the ones who pay the consequences for the things that are happening.
And speaking aboard Air Force One just a day later, he told reporters that the warning was not a sign that an airstrike was imminent.
Does your warning mean that an airstrike is imminent, or should we not read it that way?
Don't read anything into it.
Washington has accused Maduro of playing a direct role in supplying illegal drugs that have killed Americans, a charge he denies. The US military has also made a massive build-up in the Caribbean, following months of strikes on suspected drug boats near Venezuelan waters. Human rights groups have condemned them as illegal extrajudicial killings. US lawmakers are also pressing the Trump administration for answers about military strikes on suspected Venezuelan drug boats following reports that a follow-up strike was ordered to kill survivors of an initial attack. Soon after, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth condemned the reports as fake news. Caracas said that the country will form a special commission to investigate these boat strikes.
We, at the same time as we form the special commission tomorrow at the extraordinary session of the National Assembly, will also activate, through the mechanisms available to the National Assembly according to its constitutional prerogatives, we will activate the action of the Attorney General's office so that the Attorney General's office also addresses the crimes committed against Venezuelans and Latin Americans in the Caribbean Sea.
President Trump himself has said he would look into allegations that a second strike in September killed survivors from a previous operation, saying he would not have supported such an act. Maduro, meanwhile, has repeatedly said that Venezuela needs to defend itself against foreign threats.
I ask you to remain steadfast in your serenity. Be alert, ready, and willing to defend our rights as a nation, as a free and sovereign homeland. And I know that you will never fail Venezuela. I know that Venezuela is counting on you. If history demands that we declare ourselves a republic in arms, history will once again see us rise up.
Inside Venezuela, the pressure is being felt in a very different way. Rights monitors say the country is entering one of its most repressive periods in years. The crisis is widening. The rhetoric is hardening. And both countries now stand at a moment where diplomacy, pressure and military posture are intertwining in unpredictable ways. Finally, shifting focus to Pakistan. The country is facing sharp international scrutiny after passing a sweeping constitutional amendment, one that makes the already powerful Field Marshal Asim Munir even stronger. Pakistan's parliament approved the 27th constitutional amendment last month. The amendment transforms the military chain of command. It creates a new post, the Chief of Defence Forces, or CDF. Field Marshal Asim Munir now formally commands the Army, Navy and Air Force. The amendment also grants him lifetime legal immunity. The same immunity extends to other five-star officers. The amendment does more than elevate Munir. It creates a federal constitutional court. This new court takes over the Supreme Court's role in interpreting the Constitution. The UN has now expressed deep concern over these constitutional changes. Its human rights chief warned the lifetime immunity and court restructuring could have far-reaching consequences. The UN said the changes risk subjugating the judiciary and endangering the principles of democracy and rule of law. Listen in.
These changes taken together, risk subjugating the judiciary to political interference and executive control. Neither the executive nor legislative should be in a position to control or direct the judiciary, and the judiciary should be protected from any form of political influence in its decision-making.
The UN also flagged the speed and secrecy behind the amendment's passage, saying it sailed through Parliament without meaningful debate or consultation. They warn this kind of lawmaking could place the military even further beyond democratic scrutiny and outside the reach and rule of the law.
Pakistan's hastily adopted constitutional amendments seriously undermine judicial independence and raise grave concerns about military accountability and respect for the rule of law. The latest constitutional amendment, like the 26th Amendment last year, had been adopted without broad consultation and debate with the legal community and wider civil society.
But Pakistan has brushed aside the UN's warning. The Foreign Ministry dismissed the criticism as baseless, insisting the amendment is essential for institutional stability. But many Pakistanis disagree. They say the move pushes the country towards an authoritarian state, one that operates under the facade of constitutional order. The military has ruled Pakistan directly for nearly half of its history since 1947. It is widely seen as the country's most powerful institution. This amendment gives that power unprecedented constitutional backing. Analysts say reversing these provisions will now be extremely difficult. They warn the move could alter Pakistan's political landscape for years. Asim Munir now stands at the peak of Pakistan's power structure, and what this means for the future of its fragile democratic institutions remains an unsettling question. That's all we have on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Until then, thank you for watching.
What a way to start the